Good afternoon, everyone. It's Victoria Thomas in the training department. I also have Greg from ShowingTime on the line with us, and I'll kick it over to him in just a second, but a couple of housekeeping things. Like usual, if you've done some of our webinars, you'll know that you are muted, but if you have any questions at any time, feel free to type them in the question panel box, and then at the end, we'll also leave some time if anybody has questions for Greg. He's going to give us a great overview and some best practices of ShowingTime today. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to him and let you take it away, Greg.
All right, fantastic, Victoria. Thank you. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to say hello, introduce myself right and proper. My name is Greg Ptasinski. I'm your Customer Success Manager with ShowingTime. And as was mentioned just a moment ago, I'll be going through, think of this as an overview of the appointment center, really showing you what features, functionalities are available to you, and just showing you kind of how to work your way through the desktop version. One thing that I always like to mention as we get started with training sessions is thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join the training today. I definitely appreciate your time. Thanks for joining. So I switch around my screen just a little bit there. Just get myself into the login page. I've already got all my information queued up, as I do tend to misspell my own name during trainings very often, and try to work around that when possible. So I'm just going to click the login button and get into my homepage here. And this is where I always like to start things off. Sorry as I blow up my screen a little bit to make things easy to see. Really, I always like to go through this just to let everybody know what's being displayed on your homepage. This is a great kind of reference point and jumping off point for things you might need to do within the appointment center. Basically, on the center of the screen, and you'll see this every time you log into ShowingTime on the desktop. One thing to note too, before I really start getting into the information, is that unfortunately I do not have the ability to screen share from my phone. I do know that, with the busyness of the market, especially at this time of year, many agents are working directly out of the ShowingTime mobile app. To show you kind of the best practices and how to set everything up and all the ins and outs, I wanted to do so from the desktop, but please note, pretty much everything that I'm going to show you today, with the exception of two main points, which I'll mention when we get there, they're all available to you from within ShowingTime's mobile app. It's just that the desktop facilitates a little bit more ease for a demonstration. But on our homepage, very important, right in the center of the screen, you've got two tables, really just displaying information on the right-hand side for showings that have been requested on your listings. Left-hand side, you've got information about showings you yourself have requested and access to the Schedule a Showing button. So if you first log in, you know you need to schedule an appointment right away, you've got quick access there. You also have access to all of the feedback requests that are outstanding, whether it's on your own listings or what you're being asked to submit. And all the way at the top right-hand side of the screen where you see that mailbox, if you do use ShowingTime's in-app messaging, you'll have access to any unread conversations and can jump right into them from there. As all the numbers that you see on this page in yellow and green, they're all links to collections of that respective information. So, if I had outstanding messages, I could just click on that 0 and be brought to them, come into this feedback request that's asking for my information down here on the bottom left by clicking the 1. And I also have this listing notices section on the right-hand side. And this is a great jumping off point because through the listing notices section, I can access certain subsets of my inventory. I can simply go in and click on the particular number on its row to see my inventory and just its active listings or just its pendings, or possibly see any listings that are going through price changes or have gone through price changes in the last 24 hours. I do draw some attention to the top line within the listing notices section here that states listings which need complete showing instructions. Now, this is something you'll want to keep an eye on in your day-to-day usage of the appointment center, as the number you see on this line is just going to be a count of any listing that's posted into the MLS, has imported into ShowingTime, and does not have complete showing instructions on it. We do recommend always keeping that number as close to 0 as possible, simply because the more listings you have complete showing instructions upon, the better we can handle all of your appointment requests. Now, on the homepage, you do have a button all the way at the top left where you'll see your own contact information displaying when you logged in, or see mine on the screen right now. I always make that recommendation to agents that, you want to make sure that your profile is as up to date as possible, ensuring that the best contact information is on file with you and ShowingTime, and to make sure that all of your defaults are in place in the way that you want them. You can access your profile by clicking on your name and or silhouette in the navigation bar on the left-hand side, or just click into that edit profile button that I mentioned a moment ago. And when you do, it brings you into this page here. All the way at the top, you have your profile basics section, and I'll break down some of the most important points of your profile here. Within the profile basics section, you can enter in all of your contact information or adjust it where necessary. You've got space for up to 3 different phone numbers for contact. We do recommend placing that best contact number at the top of the list, as our appointment center specialist will try reaching out to you from the top of the list down. Also, if you plan on sending and receiving text notifications through ShowingTime, do ensure that the appropriate number is marked as a mobile phone from this phone type dropdown that we see opening up here. And once you do select that number, your mobile telephone number will pull into this text message field to make sure that ShowingTime is aware of the number you'd like to receive text messages at. Now, one thing to note is that on the right-hand side, we have some information that looks like it's been typed directly into the screen. And this is information that's pulling directly from the board. So if you ever notice where this information needs to be updated in ShowingTime, you'll just want to make sure to update that information directly with the board. And once our data sync takes place, it'll update accordingly within ShowingTime. Now, right below that, you got access to your login information, so you can update or change your username or password at any time. And you'll also notice this Add Profile button at the bottom of the login information section. If you happen to be an agent who lists in multiple boards, you can tell ShowingTime that you want to link your profiles and say, hey, if I list in my board, but I also have a profile in Indiana Regional, you can tell ShowingTime that, or I can tell ShowingTime that I'm the same agent within both MLSs, so I can access all my information within one place. Now, scrolling down just below that, we have the listing agent preferences. And this is a section I always draw some attention to because you have the ability to set some defaults upon your listings within ShowingTime. You can come in here and mark as a default whether or not you'd like for agents to be able to request appointments online. You can specify through this dropdown whether or not you're allowing both in-person and virtual appointments or only one or the other. You can set up your listings so that they come in with a specific default appointment type when they are new, whether that's needing someone's permission for a confirmation or an auto-confirm setting. You do also have a drop-down marking whether or not you'd like to allow for overlapping appointments. This was just a recent change within listings within FC Tucker's appointment center, but do note that you have a default setting at the agent level. So you can say, hey, for all of my listings, I would like a specific default in place. And when your new listings come in, they'll have these defaults upon them. You do have some other defaults that pertain to settings upon your listings. And then right below that, with all of the different checkboxes, you can mark how you'd like to be contacted in terms of confirmations and cancellations upon your listings. You can set yourself up for email, text message, phone call, push notification if you have the mobile app downloaded, so that when your next listing comes in, it'll have all of these notification defaults in place. Now, one thing that's extremely important to mention is that whenever you make any adjustments to your default agent preferences, those changes will go into effect on any listing that comes in after the fact. If you do make changes to your default preferences, it will not go back and retroactively update those listings which already exist within your login. Now, I scroll down the page just a touch, we come to a very similar section with a number of checkboxes, radio buttons, and a couple drop-downs. And these are default preferences that are specific to you as the showing agent, really marking how you'd like to be contacted in terms of confirmations and cancellations, any default appointment lengths that you would like to put in place for when you are the showing agent, and also telling ShowingTime if you have different lockbox access. Once again, do note that these preferences are specific to you when making appointment requests on the listings of other agents. And then finally, down at the bottom of the page within the profile, we have our mobile app access section. I always make the recommendation that every agent takes advantage of ShowingTime's mobile app. And to make it easy to download, we have this section here. You can simply put in your current email address, click that send button, and you'll receive an email with a link and instructions on how to download ShowingTime's mobile app. You do have the ability to download the app as many times to as many devices as you would like free of charge. And you will be able to locate ShowingTime's app within the App Store or within Google Play as well. Now from the desktop, in order for me to get back to my homepage, I can just simply click the home button at the top of the navigation bar, and it brings us to that view we had just a moment ago. I always think it's important as well to make sure agents are aware of how to access their inventory. And as I had mentioned earlier, through the listing notices section at the bottom right, where we have this house icon, you can access those subsets of your inventory. But you can also access your entire inventory just by clicking on listings in the navigation bar. That'll bring you to a table view showing all of your listings that are active within ShowingTime. You do have the ability to use the search bar at the top of the screen to look for a listing by its address or its listing ID. And you also have the advanced search, which opens up some further filtering options. So if you happen to have the need to look at a number of listings that are in a particular subdivision or are tied to a certain owner name, you can type in that information and filter out the list as needed. Now within the table view, every row that we see is a link to the instructions page, or the listing worksheet as we call it within ShowingTime for that particular listing. So whenever you have a listing that comes in new, you'll just want to locate it within your inventory. Once you do, click on this row and you're brought to the instructions page, excuse me as I enunciate, within ShowingTime. Now, I'm not going to get too in detail on this one. I just wanted to show you some rather important points on this page. An important thing to let you know is this page is something that you'll want to address for every listing that you have when it comes in new. Whether it's to come in and set up the instructions, or whether to come in and confirm that you'll be using the defaults from your profile moving forward, or to come in and actively turn the listing off. So some of your most important settings are all the way at the top of the page, and the best practice is just to address this from top to bottom. You have two sets of radio buttons at the top of the screen. The one on the left-hand side stating Allow Appointment Center to take appointments. This button is going to come in, set to yes when your listings are new, just meaning that ShowingTime, or you'd like for ShowingTime to be able to handle inbound calls for agents requesting appointments and place outbound calls to your clients. If you ever have a listing where you don't need us handling those live calls, just simply switch the button to no, and it tells our appointment center staff that they don't need to be available for calls upon this listing. Now, independent of that, on the right-hand side, we have this button, Allow Showing Agents to Request Appointments Online. This setting also comes in set to yes when your listings are new, just meaning that agents within your market will have the ability to make an online appointment request through ShowingTime. If you prefer agents don't have that ability, once again, simply switch the button to no. And then if someone happens to click on the Schedule a Showing button for this property, they'll see a pop-up menu that lets them know the listing is not available for online requests, and will refer them back to the MLS instructions for scheduling. You do have a drop-down here so that if you've set a default on your agent profile, you can change it on a per listing basis to either allow both in-person and virtual, or one or the other if you have a specific preference. And then the drop-down below that in the appointment settings section is rather important within ShowingTime. As it's through this drop-down, you tell us at ShowingTime what steps need to occur in order to have a confirmed appointment. And you've got your choice between 5 different options, and without going too in-depth about each one of them, the main thing to note is that these top 2, the appointment required and confirm with any, simply means that you need to have someone's permission to have a confirmed appointment. You can enter in your contacts on the listing and mark who has the ability to confirm, like who has those permissions. And then once an appointment is requested, notifications go out to all of your contacts, asking for permission from those who have that ability to confirm. And then the system will simply await for their permission to send out any confirmation notifications. Then below that, the next 2, Courtesy Call and Go and Show, are both settings that are designed for listings that can be auto-confirmed and don't need anyone's permission to have a confirmed appointment. They work in a very similar manner where appointment requests are documented and then immediately confirmed. But the difference is courtesy call contains the ability to have a live call go out to a contact to let them know about a current confirmation, where Go and Show is specifically for text and email messages only. And then finally, you refer to listing agent if you happen to have any listings that have very complex showing instructions. This is a good setting to use if you can't really set the instructions on this listing worksheet because those instructions are so complex. Now, in the event of a refer to listing agent, what our team will do is handle the call, document any request, and first try and get that caller into direct contact with you, the agent. And in the event that that can't happen, they'll pass off any contact details the caller might need to reach out to you at a later date. Now, you do have some further settings within this section as well, one of them being this drop down here for your feedback template. I do draw attention here because if you happen to have customized any feedback templates within your login to ShowingTime, those templates are available to you within this dropdown, and you can simply scroll through the list to associate a particular template with showings on this listing. Right below that, you have your contact section. Your information as a listing agent will auto-populate along with your defaults, and you can adjust them on a per listing basis as necessary. You have the ability to add co-listing agents to this listing worksheet if need be, so that that particular co-listing agent has access to information about this listing and has access to the instructions for this particular property in their own login to Showing. You can simply click on the button and search for them within your office and highlight their information from the table that's displayed to you. You can also add your owners and occupants through the Add Owner Occupant button so that they can be receiving notifications directly through ShowingTime and making confirmations and declining appointments where necessary. Now, one important point about adding your clients into ShowingTime, whether that's buyers or sellers, and that is if you happen to save an email address on file for your client. When you're entering their information, if there is that email address on file, once you click that Save button, an email will auto-generate to your client with a link and instructions on how to download My Home, the seller's version or the client version of ShowingTime. And we always recommend passing off this access where you can so that your clients have the ability to log into ShowingTime where they can update their own contact information or confirm an appointment if they have those permissions or decline them in the case of an emergency. They'll also be able to see information about showings that they're involved with, and your homeowners will be able to see the listing activity report in their own version to access feedback that's been published to them. But very importantly, what your clients cannot see are any listings that they are not associated with within ShowingTime, and your clients do not have the ability to change the instructions on the listing that they're associated with as well. Moving on down the page, we have some appointment restrictions that can be put into place. Once again, you can mark whether you're going to be allowing for overlapping appointments to change that default on a per listing basis. You can put in lead times if you're using them, whether it's a required or a suggested. Main difference between the two being that a required lead time will effectively block anyone out from making an appointment request within that time frame, whereas the suggested lead is more of a soft number, where the system will respect what you put into place, but will still process that appointment request if it's made underneath a suggested time, so that there's never the chance of a missed appointment. You do also have a maximum appointment length that you can put in place if you'd like, marking a default for this listing for how long an agent can make an appointment for. Now, within the appointment restrictions section, you do also have your showing rules. These are very handy features to have because of the abilities that they let you kind of control on the listing. The first of the two rules that you have access to is a showing restriction. It's simply something you'd want to put in place if you want to block out specific dates or times for showings at this property. And you also have a showing exception, which allows you to temporarily change the confirmation process upon a listing. So if you have a home where, there's a couple there and they work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you can set their instructions as appointment required, confirm with any, but possibly make it a go and show for the days and the times where they're at work and the home's technically vacant. So really think of this as a secondary listing worksheet that's only in place for the dates and the times that you specify. Then below that, you have areas for access information that's passed off to the buyer's agent. You can mark whether or not the listing is on a combo box or a super box, or maybe they're getting access by a gate guard or concierge. You have key sets that need to be picked up at an office location. You can enter in specifics about that, or even specifics about the alarm details. Very important to note as well that within ShowingTime, we do pass off the access information to the buyer's agent, but not until the appointment has been confirmed, simply because we don't want to be passing off access details until there's permission to enter the home. And then finally, you have space for additional instructions. Think of this as a place to place in any additional instructions that did not fit into the settings up above, whether that's for our appointment staff. And those notes for the appointment staff, by the way, are internal, whereas the notes for the showing agent are passed off to that buyer's agent once the appointment has been confirmed, along with their access details. Also, down at the bottom of the page, you have a space for driving directions. Any directions up in the MLS will import into ShowingTime, but if there's ever the need to make changes or adjustments, you have space for that down below. Now, one thing that's very important within ShowingTime and in your listing, in this listing worksheet, is the listing activity report. We have many agents who refer to this report on a frequent basis because of all the information that it displays to them. Now, you can access your listing activity report through the Reportings tab in the navigation bar, but you have access to it for each particular listing from its listing worksheet. When you click on that listing activity report button, you're brought to that report specifically, which is going to show you information about showings and feedback and details about appointments. You've got a bar graph telling you the appointments that have happened over a month or over the months or week by week, depending on how long the listing has been on market. If you have multiple choice questions upon your feedback template, you'll see these bar graphs giving you the overall responses to them. And then you have the specific feedback responses below. Now, what's great about this table on this report is that if you are holding your feedback for review, you can come into this page and either publish or unpublish that feedback from your homeowner's view right from this page. And then finally, down below, you have the listing activity details, giving you a life of history for your property. When it came in new, past showings, future showings, declined showings, any status changes or price changes. And you have this great details link here so that you can come into an appointment and click on the details. Not on that one because it's not a great example, but you can come in and click on the details to see a pop-up that gives you a breakdown of who requested the showing. Did they do it online or over the phone? What notifications went out? Who may have canceled? Who may have confirmed? So you can always, double check what the workflow is like for getting this appointment confirmed. Scrolling back up to the top of the page, I always like to point out as well is that you can email this report out to your clients. You not only have the ability to send this report to them when you're logged in, but you can set up a schedule so that you can mark one of your homeowners to be receiving an email with this report in it, either once every week or every day, bi-monthly, once a month, which is a great way to keep your clients informed about activity on their listings. You also have the send notification button, which allows you to send kind of a semi-formatted email through ShowingTime. When you click on that send notification button, it's going to default to sending a price change notification. But you can come in here and customize this message simply by changing it to an other message type, mark who the recipient groups are, and then customize your message below so you have the ability to send out some listing notifications for this property within ShowingTime. Now, as I mentioned as well, you do have a reports tab within the navigation bar, which takes you into this page, which gives you kind of your full suite of reports within the appointment center. Now, as for reports, you do have the ability to run different reports on yourself. Say, I want to look at a listing and see its activity. You can run a report on yourself as an agent to see your activity, or look at one report that shows all of your listings and shows all of their different activity in one view. Now, at the moment, some of the most frequently used reports outside of the listing activity report are the activity on comparables all the way at the top of the screen and the target market analysis down below. Now, clicking into the activity on comparables button, this starts off our report and lets us enter filtering criteria, excuse me. We can come into this report and state, hey, I'd like to run a report in a specific time frame. I'd like to look at showings that only happened in particular price ranges. You can specify bed counts or cities, zip codes, property types, and so forth. And as long as we're receiving that filtering criteria from the board, you will have access to that information and can simply click submit, and you'll see this table down below. Now, the activity on comparables allows you to search for sales associates who've shown comparable listings based on your filtering criteria, and is a great way to locate potential buyers. It's really going to break down appointment details for showings that have occurred within your office, showing you the listing address, its ID, and its price point. So you might wind up finding an agent who's shown a very similar listing to yours and can reach out to them about setting up a showing on your property as well. Now, the other one that I wanted to show you here, which is most frequently used, is down at the bottom, which is the target market analysis. When I click into it, it looks identical to the activity on comparables. You once again can enter time frames or date ranges, bed counts, and certain filtering criteria such as subdivisions and property types. But the difference here is that as long as you have this checkbox clicked at the top right-hand side of the screen, which says use market-wide data, once you run this report, it's going to give you an anonymized list of all the showings that have happened through ShowingTime within your market. So this is really going to give you a bigger scope of what types of showings are happening on what types of listings within that time frame. Once again, this information is anonymized, so you won't see the listing agent details or have contact information for them, but you've got that bar graph and the chart down below showing you which price points are getting the most showings within those time frames. Now, there are a couple other things I wanted to show you here very briefly, and I'm going to navigate back to the home page because I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of the scheduling process. If I wanted to schedule a listing, I could simply come into showings. And when I click on that button, it's going to first give me a calendar view displaying all of my request activity. This is going to contain inbound and outbound requests. So what's happening on my listings and what I'm requesting. I can hover over those particular entries on the dates and see specifics about that request activity. But if I wanted to request a showing, I could simply come in to click Make New Request. Within that search bar, I can enter in an address or a listing ID or a city by chance. I'll get a table back of any relevant matches. If that listing is off for online requests, I'll see that pop-up I had mentioned earlier. But I can also click into a listing that might be open, and I'll see the screen just confirming the listing that I'm scheduling on, my contact information. I can either mark whether I'm scheduling a single showing or adding it to a showing cart tour. Once I mark schedule a single showing, I'll see my calendar for the week. This will contain any blocked out times for the listing I'm trying to schedule on, as well as the appointments I've already confirmed, so I'm not running the chance of double booking myself. I can then select a date and a time. If I wanted to come here to specify my appointment type, I have the ability to do that, or to lengthen the appointment time that I'd like to put in place, as well as optionally add a note for the listing representative. Once I click Request Appointment, I'll see this message here, which lets me know the status of my request. Was it auto-confirmed, or am I waiting confirmation, just letting me know that, hey, the submission has been entered, we're just waiting for that permission. Now, so you're aware as well, I'd briefly mentioned showing cart and a buyer's tour. This is one of my favorite features within ShowingTime because it allows you to make a number of appointment requests from one single page within the appointment center. Just click on showing cart and you'll see this calendar here. You can simply select a tour date up top from the calendar provided. If you'd like to associate a buyer to this, you can, just by accessing the dropdown in your buyers that are on file or adding someone new. And please note, this is there for your specific reference. Associating a buyer to your showing cart tour does not give that buyer's information to the listing agent for the appointments that you'll be requesting. Now that buyer's name is going to fill into the description. You can customize it from here if you'd like. Once you click Add to My Tours, it fills into your calendar. Simply clicking on their tour brings you into the scheduling page. Now you can come in here and start adding listing stops one by one if you'd like, or you can use the search bar to enter in as many listing IDs as you'd like, separated by commas. Once you click Go, those listings will pull into the table down below as well as on the map underneath. You do have the ability to rearrange their order simply by dragging and dropping, or make use of the Smart Route button. So you're provided with the most efficient route in between these locations, so you're not backtracking over town. You can also access turn-by-turn directions if you'd like. But once you're ready, you can simply come in to pick a time and mark when you'd like for this appointment to begin, when you'd like it to end, send any notes to the listing agent. And once those are all in place, you can send the request with a click of a single button, or use the envelope icon up top to email this information to your client so that they can get an email with the photos of the listings that are going to be scheduled upon. They'll have access to the directions and your contact information as a listing agent as well. Now, as I mentioned right at the beginning of the training, you do have Showing Cart available to you within the mobile app. Once your Showing Cart tours have been created, they're available to you so you can see your tour and have access to maps and turn-by-turn directions, but they cannot currently be created from the mobile app. If you're building Showing Cart tours, you'll want to create it from the desktop so it's available to you from the app. The other point that I had mentioned is I had failed to mention rather, is you do have some limited reporting availability from the mobile app. Really only the listing activity report is available from the app, but you do have that full suite from the desktop. And then the last thing to bring to your attention is how to access your showing information. Within that same dropdown of showings on the left, you have two options here of On My Listings or I Have Requested. You have very similar views when you click into either one of these. And as we jump into showings on My Listings, you'll see this table where you can change the date range if you'd like to look at something in the past or any appointments that are coming up in the future. All of the showings will be arranged chronologically by row. And when there's showings that are on your listings, you have the View Modify button, where you can click on that and get a breakdown of all the specifics. MLS information, a breakdown of the instructions. You'll have your client information in here, as well as those details down below. Now, at the bottom of the screen, you also have the ability to either confirm, decline, or suggest a new time for rescheduling from directly within this appointment. And then within this dropdown, you have the showings I have requested. Very similar breakdown where you have that table with the filtering options and a View Modify button. But because it's not your listing, you don't have as deep of a breakdown with the instructions, and you won't have access to the seller information. But you can still look in and see particular specifics about that appointment that you have requested in case you need to refer back to it for, say, access information, which is available to you from the mobile app as well. So Victoria, I figured I'd check in with you. I know you've been looking at questions that may have been coming in. That's really everything that I have prepared for the afternoon, but wanted to check in, definitely take some time in case there are questions that are out there about the material that I went over.
Sure. I actually haven't had any questions come in, so we can give it a second and see if anybody has any questions for Greg. If anyone's furiously typing into the box, we'll give it a couple minutes.
Absolutely. You know, one thing to show, as we're waiting, and my apologies, I kind of went over time a little bit as I tend to be long-winded, but wanted to show you feedback as well while we're waiting to give ample time for folks to ask questions. Because it's really important to, accessing your showing information, how do you access all of your feedback info? And you've got that feedback tab in the navigation bar here. Two tabs up at the top of the screen will separate the feedback that's been submitted or is waiting to be submitted on your listings, or the feedback that you're being requested to submit. What's interesting about this screen here is that for every row, which represents a feedback request or response, you have these icons over to the far right-hand side so that if you happen to speak to an agent about the feedback, you can log a particular call, or if they're not responding to the feedback emails, you can click on the pen icon and see this pop up where you can, type that feedback directly into ShowingTime for documentation to share with your homeowners. And if they're not responding to your feedback emails as well, you can click on the envelope icon to force a new feedback request to be sent out to them. And then one final thing too, in your feedback with the form design and settings, do keep in mind that you have the ability to create as many customized feedback templates as you would like within your appointment center. Just come into form design and settings, and you'll see this page here where you can start setting up this template, creating it from scratch with the create new template button, or cloning any existing template available to you and building off of it. You also have the ability to mark whether or not feedback is going to be held for review or published automatically, so you can customize not only the questions, but the settings on the templates that you'll be using within ShowingTime.
Awesome. Well, I haven't had anything come in, Greg. I just want to remind everybody this was recorded. It will be posted on the course catalog and also on our YouTube page. If anybody wants to come back and re-watch anything, you're more than welcome to. But other than that, I guess you did such a great job, Greg. Nobody's got any questions.
All right, well, fantastic. Thank you once again, everyone, for your time. I definitely appreciate it. Oh, it looks like there's a question that just came through.
You are right.
Yes. A question came through about setting up a daily ShowingTime report. No, the agent had sent in a question. I set up a daily ShowingTime report. I'm not sure I set it up correctly because when I've checked it, it said I don't have any activity, but I do have a showing. Just as a follow-up to that, is the showing on your listing, or is it a showing that you have requested? On your listing. Oh, that should be showing up on your report. Now, is the report that you're getting, is it marked the listing activity report, or is it the daily summary? Well, they might not know, might be filtering through emails. The one thing that I would say, it's the daily summary. So the daily summary is going to show some different information. The one thing that I would recommend is to access your listing within ShowingTime and schedule yourself to receive the listing activity report. That one's going to show you specific activity on listings in a little bit better detail to use in kind of day-to-day management of the listing. That'll definitely be my recommendation. The daily summary is, to be quite honest, is a report that our support team is a little bit more familiar with, because it's going to give you more of an overall breakdown of what's happening with you within ShowingTime. The thing I'd recommend is set yourself up for the listing activity report. It might help a little bit better and give some more concise information. Oh, no problem. Happy to help as the thank you comes through. No problem. And that's one other thing too that I didn't get to mention. Sorry, Victoria, I'll just kind of finish it out with this last screen. You have access to our help and support from the desktop as well as from the mobile app. And when you have questions, definitely reach out to us. When you're on the desktop, you have this huge suite. Think of it as your encyclopedia of ShowingTime, where you can type in a specific term and get more information about it. But if you're ever looking for the answers to a question that you just can't seem to find, either through the mobile app or through the desktop, you scroll down on this view, you come to our support team's information down at the bottom. It's got their phone number. You'll have the ability to email them, start a live chat directly through Help and Training, and it gives you all of the dates and the times that they're available until 8 Central every evening of the week, and then until 5 on the weekends. But as always, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly through our support team.
Fantastic. I think that wraps it up for us. Thanks everybody for joining today.
Thank you once again, everyone. Have a great day.
All right, bye everybody.